Welcome to the Private Jet Buyer's Guide, what you need to know before buying your first private jet. My name is Fabrizio Poli. Welcome to BizJet TV. I'm here today to talk to you about the main points you have to go through, things you need to watch when you're buying a private jet. We're going to talk about steps in the acquisition process, from the need analysis to closing, budget ranges, and common hidden costs. We're going to talk about the overview of popular models for first-time buyers and the regulatory and operational considerations you have to bear in mind when buying a private jet. So let's jump into step number one, which is the acquisition process, from need analysis to closing. So the first question is, do you really need a private jet? We'd look at how often do you travel, what mix of your travel is business, what mix of the travel is leisure. Of course, the business trips in certain parts of the world, you can write them off tax-wise. Can't do that with your leisure trips unless there's a business meeting wherever you go, you're going on holiday as well, then you can write that one off. The first thing to look at is, where you're going to, how many people are traveling, and how often do you travel? So these are the questions. So give us an idea of what type of airplane you need. Also, the other consideration is, if you're buying this for business, you need to think, well, where am I currently expanding and where could I expand to? Not only where can I fly to with the jet, but where can I send the jet to pick people up, to bring them to see me? That's another thing you need to think of. If we're talking the smaller jets, you can get a smaller jet for under $5-6 million on the pre-owned market. If we're looking at mid-size, we're talking anywhere between 8 to 18-19 million. And if we're talking about the ones that can do the transatlantic flying, the 6,000 plus nautical mile range, we're talking just over 10 million, all the way up to 65 million for some pre-owned aircraft. These are kind of the cost, the acquisition costs, just to give you an idea. Now, a budget, ranges, and common hidden costs. We can work out a spreadsheet for you, which will tell you for the hours that you're planning to do. And I suggest if you're doing less than 2 to 250 hours, we may want to look at another option, which could be charter or lease before you buy. And that's where you need to, have a conversation with somebody like myself. But you can book yourself in for a call with me and we can get more into detail. But there are hidden costs with private jets. And if you buy your jet and you want to charter it out to other people, you're going to get a lot more wear and tear on the airplane. And then every time the airplane takes off and lands, there could be a situation develop. The flaps could get blocked, or the gear, or whatever. So more landings and takeoffs you do, more wear and tear you have on everything on the aircraft. Those are factors that you need to bear in mind if you're going to charter the plane out when you're not going to use it, because that's when you're going to get more unscheduled maintenance events. And today, the way things are in the market, if you get an unscheduled maintenance event, first of all, you need to have a maintenance repair overhaul station, an MRO, that has a slot to repair your airplane, number one. And number two, have they got the spare part, or how long is it going to take for the spare part to arrive so they can fix your airplanes? And this is where I always say the pilot's more important than the plane, because the pilot will fly the plane in a certain way and make sure that those unscheduled maintenance events don't happen, or if they do, they're very, very limited. You don't want your pilot flying into a thunderstorm, ruin the whole paint job on the airplane. Now the airplane needs to be repainted. You don't want that kind of thing to happen. So the pilots are really, really important. And if you don't pay your pilots well enough, for example, they'll leave. Then you have to hire another one, maybe train him. That's another hidden cost. You've also got to consider where you're going to keep this airplane, where you're going to base it, where you're going to register the airplane. Are you going to have it on an AOC or not? These are all questions that need to be answered, and you can't give one answer. It really depends on your circumstances and the part of the world where you live and where you intend to operate the airplane. Now, overview of popular models for first-time buyers. Well, again, it depends, because once upon a time, the first-time buyer would be buying a Citation or maybe a Learjet as their first airplane, or a King Air. Today, we see people coming into the market and their first airplane is a Global Express, for example, or even a Boeing business jet. It really, really depends. I mean, if you want entry-level jet that takes you 700,000-800,000 miles, then you'd be looking at maybe a Phenom 100, a CJ2, the Honda Jet. These tend to be the popular ones for those short ranges. Now, regulatory and operational considerations, that's another thing. Where are we going to register this airplane? Are we going to register it in the United States? Or are we going to do an offshore registration like Aruba or Bermuda or Isle of Man? And then also the operational considerations, as in how many members of crew are we going to hire? We're going to hire just 2 pilots, which is the bare minimum, or we're going to hire 4 or 6. That will depend on the type of airplane and where you're going to and how frequently you're going to be flying. Some airplanes do operate with 4 pilots. Some manage to get by with 3, some with 2. Maybe we start off with 2 and then we add a third one later on. But these are all things that need to be considered, when you're buying a private jet. But as I said, the people that run your jet are important. We need to talk not just airplane and where you're going and that, but also the people. In particular, if you're using the plane to go out and pick guests up and bring them to you, your flight attendant is going to be really, really important. The captain will probably greet the passengers, but then the flight attendant will be spending time with them on the airplane, giving them food and drinks, and that person really needs to know how to do their job, and they need to be a good PR person for your company. But if we really want to get into specifics, you need to get on a call, ping me an email, and we'll get on a one-to-one call and talk about your private jet needs and see what we can do here to craft the best solution for you. And that's all from Fabrizio Poli here on BizJet TV. Remember to check out my new book, Be Aware But Don't Care. Check on this link here to go to the Be Aware But Don't Care podcast. Interviews with successful people that think outside the cube every week, coming to you on the Be Aware But Don't Care podcast. And that's all from Fabrizio Poli here on BizJet TV, and I'll see you in the next one.